Welcome to the fourth homework video. This video is for question 51. And I think this one is pretty straightforward, at least I hope you would agree. So first, we've got two types of customers. If you read the problem, we've got two types of customers. We have C, right? These are the current customers, and I'll call them N. Right, these are our new customers. And then based on the problem, well, actually, let me back up, because what I'm trying to do here with this problem, I could understand if you got a little confused because they kind of throw bits and pieces kind of at you in different spots. And one that I think is very important is the very last sentence. So if the marketing budget, excluding test drive costs, is $1.2 million, how many promotions should be sent to each group of customers in order to maximize total sales? So the idea here is we've got a small calculation to figure out exactly what our objective function is. And the idea goes like this. Based on the problem, it told us that let me just verify that. 25% of current customers test drive. And then 20% of new customers test drive, right? But then, so you get 25% of your current customers are going to test drive, and 20% of the new customers are going to test drive. That's what they're calling the response rate. But then they tell us that for customers who test drive the new model, the sales rate is the percentage of individuals that make a purchase. So marketing research studies indicate that the sales rate is 12% for current customers. So 0.12 is the sales rate for current customers. I'll write that here. Sales rate. And then and 20% for the new customers, right? So here's the sales rate for the new customers. Well, what I'm trying to get at, so if you think back, or if you go back to that last sentence, how many promotions should be sent to each group of customers in order to maximize total sales? Well, what you want to do here is for C, it's going to be 0.25 times 0.12, right? And then for the new customers, is going to be 0.20 times 0.20, okay? So in other words, what I'm saying is that only 3% of your current customers are actually going to buy this new car, and 4% of the new customers are going to buy the new car, right? Does that make sense? Because see, 25% of all your current customers are going to test drive it, but then only 12% of those who test drive are going to purchase. Well, that's the 3%. And then the same logic applies for these, what they're calling the new customers. So the point being here is our objective function is going to be to max 0.03 times the number of current customers plus 0.04 times the number of new customers. All right? So that's what we had to go through in order to actually calculate our objective function. Hopefully you didn't find that to be too shabby. Okay, now the rest, the subject to, some of this, hopefully you would agree, is most of it is fairly straightforward. There's only one that might throw you for a loop. So let me find those. Okay, so let's start with the easiest one. The cost for each promotion, excluding the test drive, is $4 for the current customers and $6 for the new customers. And we have a marketing budget of $1.2 million. So therefore, we have 4 times current plus 6 times new has to be less than or equal to 1.2 million. Right? That's our budget constraint. All right? Now the other one, or the others, management also specified that a minimum of 30,000 current customers should test drive the new model. So in other words, 0.25C should be greater than or equal to 30,000, right? Let's see. And then a minimum of 10,000 new customers should test drive the new model. Okay, well, 20% of new customers test drive, so 0.20 times the new customers has to be greater than or equal to 10,000. All right, and I got one more here. In addition, the number of current customers who test drive the new vehicle must be at least twice the number of new customers who test drive the vehicle. All right. Let me make this a little bit smaller. Okay, so in other words, what that says is that 0.25C should be greater than or equal to 2 times 0.20N, right? Again, the number of current customers who test drive the new vehicle must be at least twice the number of new customers who test drive the vehicle, right? So in other words, 0.25C has to be greater than or equal to 2 times 0.2N. So rewriting this, what I would do, so this is obviously going to be 0.2 times 0.2 is 0.4N, right? So I would rewrite that constraint as 0.25C minus 0.4N, right, is greater than or equal to 0, right? So rewrite this into this form. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but you see all of your C's and N's, all of your choice variables have to be on the left side of your constraints. That's why you don't leave it over here, okay? So let me get this cleaned up just to make it look pretty. That's a capital N. And then I am going to get rid of this row, right, because I've rewritten row 12 as row 13. So let me get rid of that, clean it up a little bit. And then, of course, finally, I have my non-negativity constraints where C, comma, N are greater than or equal to 0. So there you go. There is our optimization problem. So we're trying to find, how many current customers and new customers should receive this promotion in order to maximize sales. All right, so with that, we get started. So I'll go over one more row. So here are my current customers. Here are my new customers. Here are the parameters for my objective function. Here are my choice variables for the objective function. And of course, here is the objective function itself. So the parameters, we already calculated those. Those are that didn't go well. 0.03 for C, 0.04 for N. I'm just going to put in placeholders for my choice variables. And then, of course, as always, my objective function is the sum product. So the sum product of my parameters and my choice variables. Okay, there we go. And now I've got my constraints. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 constraints. So constraint 1. Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay, there we go. Now I got everything on the screen. So constraint 1, this is just 4, 6. Constraint 2, 0.250, right? My parameters here. I don't have anything in constraint 2. I have 0n. And then in constraint 3, I have 0c, but 0.2n. And then in constraint 4, my parameters are 0.25c and a negative 0.4n. Okay, here's where I'm going to put my sum product. So this first one, less than or equal to, oh, rats. Let me see if I can shorten up these columns. Try to keep everything on one screen. Okay, there we go. That wasn't too shabby. And then I have 2 greater than or equal to's. And, oh, sorry, 3 greater than or equal to's. Voila. And then my constraints, 1.2 million. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 30, 1, 2, 3, 10, 1, 2, 3, and 0. And then, of course, I need to calculate, based on the value of my choice variables, how much of constraint 1 am I using, 2, 3, and 4. And, of course, as always, that is a sum product function. It is the sum product of our choice variables and the parameters for our constraints. And we hit OK. And as always, I'm going to anchor my choice variables. So $sign there, $sign there. And for those of you that use F4, please forgive me. I'm an old man stuck in my habits, so I just manually put in the $signs. Okay, so with that said, I copy this down. Presto, we are ready to go. So I'm going to go to Data, Solver. Okay, what's my objective? My objective function. I am going to maximize that function by choosing these 2 cells. And then I've got some constraints. So first I'm going to take 10, right, or cell G12, less than or equal to my 1.2 million. Add that constraint. And then I'm going to take, these 3 constraints have to be greater than or equal, to these 3 constraints. You got to get them right, or things will go haywire on you. So I'm going to hit OK. I've got all my constraints in there. I'm making my unconstrained variables non-negative. Use simplex LP, solve. Here we go. Let me hit OK. And obviously shorten these up a little bit too much. But there you go. So I'll comma format these just so you can see them a little better. Oop, wrong way. Okay, so in this marketing, in this promotion, right, what we should do, what this is telling us, is that we should send out 225,000 promotions to our current customers and 50,000 promotions to our new customers. And if we do that, we will get 8,700, of those people, 8,750 will buy our new car. All right? So notice this is not asking what's the profit of the car. It doesn't tell me. I don't know. This is just how many sales will be generated based on all of these constraints. All right? Well, there you go. Problem 51. So in the next video, I'm going to do problem 52.